So there's a big difference between equality and equity. It's about giving people the resources and the support they need so that everyone can be on equal footing and then compete on equal footing. Equality suggests, oh, everyone should get the same amount. The problem with that, not everybody's starting out from the same place. So if we're all getting the same amount, but you started out back there and I started out over here, we can get the same amount, but you're still gonna be that far back behind me. I am Kamala Harris. My pronouns are she and her. I am a woman sitting at the table wearing a blue suit. To that extent, yes, we do talk about equity. We actually believe it is a good principle, in spite what some so-called leaders might try to suggest. We are proud of the fact that equity is one of our guiding principles. Proud of the fact that we understand equality is important, but not everybody starts out on the same base. So it sounds like it might be right, everyone gets an equal share and then they should compete and the best thing will win, but that assumes everyone starts out on the same base. Equity takes into account that that may not be the case.
Do you believe in the mandatory buyback of quote-unquote assault weapons, and whether or not you do, how does that idea not go against fundamentally the Second Amendment?
Yeah, great question. I do believe that we need to do buybacks, and I'll tell you why. So, one, I'll tell you when elected president, if the United States Congress continues to fail to have the courage to do something about this, I'm prepared to take executive action and put in place a ban on the importation of assault weapons into our country. But we still have to deal with the over 2 million assault weapons that are currently in the streets of America. I support buybacks, and I think that, look, we have 5 million assault weapons on the streets of America, and we have 5 million assault weapons on the streets of America. And it's something I'm so passionate about and so looking forward to being president to address. We've got to deal with this.
How mandatory is your gun buyback program?
It's mandatory. Second Amendment? The Second Amendment, listen, we're going to have to do it the right way. There's no question about that. But we don't have any, we have to get these guns off the street.
Biden saying there's no constitutional authority to issue that executive order when they say I'm going to eliminate assault weapons, saying you can't do it by executive order any more than Trump can do things when he says he can do it by executive order. Does the vice president have a point there?
Some things you can, many things you can't.
Let's let the senator answer.
Well, I mean, I would just say, hey, Joe, instead of saying no, we can't, let's say yes, we can.
Let's be constitutional. We got a constitution.
And yes, we can. Your vote is your power. So please make sure your voice is heard this November and register to vote at vote.gov.
Can I get an amen?
Amen. Now on with the show.
And remember, you better vote.
I've always fought for equality, but now we are also talking much more rightly about equity, understanding that we must be clear-eyed about the fact that, yes, we want everyone to get an equal amount. That sounds right, but not everyone starts out from the same place. Some people start out on first base, some people start out on third base. And if the goal is truly about equality, it has to be about a goal of saying everybody should end up in the same place. And since we didn't start in the same place, some folks might need more. I will snatch their patent so that we will take over. And yes, we can do that. Yes, we can do that. Yes, we can do that. The question is, do you have the will to do it? I have the will to do it.
Well, actually, the nonpartisan GovTrack has rated you as the most liberal senator. You supported the Green New Deal. You've supported legalizing marijuana. Joe Biden doesn't support those things. So are you going to bring the policies, those progressive policies that you supported as senator, into a Biden administration?
What I will do, and I promise you this, and this is what Joe wants me to do, this was part of our deal. I will always share with him my lived experience as it relates to any issue that we can, we have to stay woke. Like, everybody needs to be woke. And you can talk about if you're the wokest or woker, but just stay more woke than less woke.
Some real silver linings about what this moment in time has done to maybe cause a lot of us to be woke. And I love it. I love it. But folks are woke, and I love it.
One of the leaders, in fact, said to me, she said, Vice President, equity cannot be achieved without disability being part of the equation. This is a fight that is a civil rights fight, a human rights fight. This is about equity. And whether or not we are truly committed to the principles of equity in every way that we as government and as a society can enforce those important principles. And as we all know, that truth is not just about voting then. It is also about employment. It is about an education starting with pre-K. It is about being able to live in your home and participate in your community, which is also why we must invest in in-home and community-based services. So folks, here's the bottom line. The President and I will continue to fight with you to make America more accessible for all people. This work is urgent, and the reason we do it is obviously important, because every person in our country deserves the opportunity to dream with ambition, to have choices, to shape their own future unencumbered by any barrier, free from any obstacle. Because this, as we know, is the very definition of self-determination. And this is the United States of America. And as a woman, there's a balance to be struck between being tough and being understand our country. You have dedicated yourself to our country.
He talks about this wall. I always say, let me know how high it is. If it's 25 feet, then I'll invest in the 30.
I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
He talks about this wall. I always say, let me know how high it is. If it's 25 feet, then I'll invest in the 30-foot ladder factory. That's not how you stop this.
But we can get out there, reach out, make the case. And for one thing, don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness.
It's done.
A packed room at the St. Paul Armory erupted after the governor's signature made driver's license for all the law of the land.
Having a chance every day. Like, how many chances do you get? My answer to that is as many chances as you need, which doesn't really please those law and order people.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening.
That's right. This is the campaign. These are the policies. This is what you're going to get. These are the policies. This is what you're voting. You're voting for this. She is perfectly comfortable with being used as a tool by other people.
And she's also a historic candidate. You know, it's going to be the first woman president. And that's incredibly exciting. And, you know, she's Indian, she's black, she's everything. You can be more than one thing. It's incredible. You know, I'm Jewish and Irish. I wish I was black. Every white Jewish guy wishes he was black.
I've heard young leaders talk with me about a term they've coined called climate anxiety, right? Which is fear of the future and the unknown, of whether it makes sense for you to even think about having children.
Or Indian.
Yes.
Okay, and I don't know that everybody knows that, but I find that wherever I go and I see Indian people at the supermarket, on the street, everyone's like, you know, Kamala Harris is Indian, right? It's like the thing we're so excited about to have you running for president.
Yeah.
So we're both Indian, but actually we're both South Indian.
So what you're saying is that this election, more than most, represents a test of the democratic experiment, whether we can govern ourselves.
Absolutely.
All right.
And if by some miracle we get through, we have the good sense to remove this president, the question is, will we have learned a lesson, or will we turn off our common sense when there is the first woman president, the first Asian president, the first Latin president? I mean, are we so hung up on symbolism that we don't understand that being president of the United States means having the lives of 300 million people in your hands and the future of people yet unborn? If we don't understand that and we're willing to vote for people on the basis of symbolism, then we're lost.
In the end, that this kind of cynicism, this kind of hoax effort to bamboozle the American people, slide in a Marxist Islamist as president, think that'll work?